The voice of sharing during ASEAN.
ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Good morning and welcome to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. And today is Monday. And how are you guys doing this morning? Well, there are lots of news that we'll love to deliver you from Southeast Asia as well as from Malaysia. So we're gonna start with what happened just a few days ago in Malaysia, particularly on Saturday afternoon. There were cases started from Sogo in KL and all the way to KLCC regarding the demonstrations demand on the Anwar's release. So several thousands of people marched through Kuala Lumpur to demand the release of opposition leader Anwar Ibrahim, who was jailed last month for 5 years on sodomy charges. And this looks like it will go on for a long time. And then they had this hashtag was Kita Lawan, and then people were chanting Free Anwar and Reformas, which means reform. So all those demonstrators, which was led by the members of Anwar's family, staged a short march from the shopping center around the KLCC area. And some in the crowd, apparently they chanted down with Najib. That is mainly the references to the PM, Najib Razak, and then carried a effigy of him. But there were no incidents seen. It was more like people were strongly supporting the opposition and then expecting the government to reconsider on Anwar Ibrahim's case to release him soon as possible. And apparently the Anwar, just to give a little bit of background, was he had his conviction on the charges that he sodomized the former male aide in 2008. And it's been going on for some time, and it was charged by the Malaysian's 58-year-old old government to the opposition. And the government strongly denies the accusation and insists that this judicial system is independent and impartial. And another controversial issues were happened when Anwar Ibrahim was in the court, and then whole the situation looked as if something was really planned for this to happen today. And little by little, these voices of people will be heard from the public. And that's why the Saturday's event from Sogo to all the way to KL was pretty significant to all of her. And many media did cover this event, as well as Durian ASEAN. We went over to look at the site and the scenes as well. And indeed, there were lots of people who were involved to support oppositions, and as well as just to make sure their voices are heard. And they're pretty quite vocal about what happened to Anwar Ibrahim. And at the same time, the United States has been among the international critics of this conviction and said it raised the questions over the rules of the law in Malaysia. And definitely, it's not only the questions are raised by the America, but also a lot of questions are remaining quite silent here in Malaysia as well. And those questions are not solved at the moment. And Anwar's family has applied for this royal pardon from Malaysia's figurehead Islamic royalty, but the chances are considered pretty thin and slim due to the conservative nature of this monarchy. And Anwar was the heir apparent to leadership of the ruling United Malays National Organization, or UMNO, in the late 1990s and until his ouster in the power battle quite recently. So we can't really be sure what will happen, but then it looks like the opposition whole the team will come up with something else in the future to make sure that their voices are heard in this country first. And still remaining the news from Malaysia. Yesterday was the 8th of March. Apparently 2 days, 2 celebrations. I wouldn't call celebrations so far, but 2 events were covered on the same day, which was the remembrance of MH370, and yesterday also was the International Women's Day. So yesterday was exactly a year since MH370 went missing, and apparently there are some news, not too surprising news, but there were reports that revealed the black box battery expired a year before the flight. And until now, there is no sign of Malaysian airline flight, even after the year, and it is still remain as a mysterious disappearance here. So from the what we have so far from the media and the reports from the airlines, still there is no traces of MH370. However, it gives such a big pressure and also frustrations to the victims, the families, and the family and the friends of the victims there. And like I mentioned before, according to the report, an error in maintenance records kept the battery from being replaced. However, the flight data recorder would have continued logging the data during the flight, even if the location beacon battery was dead. The battery for the other black box, the voice recorder, was up to date, and the search crews would have noticed its locator pings had they been in the vicinity. So yesterday, some families were still saddened by the news that there was no other reports other than this, and there were some cases and stories that how families have been carrying on their lives since the flight went missing, and then some of them is still quite devastated, and one of them was Chinese lady. Her name is Chan Liping. So she had kids and a husband, all happy family together until the MH370 went missing, and until now she is sort of traumatized with all this effect from the news. And also other than her, there are still lots of other family members of the passengers and also crew at the same time. They were still hoping that one way or the other the flight will be found in the future, and they're still hoping that the government still puts an effort to find at least a trace of the flight. So it was vanished on March 2014 with the 239 people on the board, and after taking off from the Kuala Lumpur on the flight, it was KL to Beijing. The satellite data suggests that it flew radically off course and went out of the patrol and ditched into ocean more than 1,000 miles southwest of Perth. But if there was no result by the end of May, when the weather conditions would deteriorate, they said they will have to go back to drawing board. So, meaning that the investigators would re-examine all the data used to establish the likely crash zone. So there will be the fresh investigations over MH370, and I hope that something will deliver to inform the families and the friends of the victims what exactly happened to MH370. But there was no proof, no debris, not a single piece of evidence to tell all those families that they're really in the Indian Ocean, which was actually reported by our government before, and that brought another huge controversial issues over because nothing was confirmed, but then it was merely from the government that it wanted just to conclude that it was just crashed into Indian Ocean. And there were lots of crews and also investigators, and also the amount of money that is spent for that matter. People are sometimes they did pretty much outraged over these issues. And also in Australia, which is leading the search apparently, in collaboration with Malaysia and also China, the head of Australian Transport Safety, Peter Foley, said he was sure the plane would be found. And he also said, I know at some point he will get a call in the middle of the night and he will come. And these ministers from these 3 countries are planning to meet next month to decide whether to look beyond the current search zone. To date, about 43% of the mountainous sea floor in the zone had been gone over by the 4 vessels towing sophisticated sonar equipment. So they are still putting an effort to find this flight and to be able to lessen the burden on the family members, and hope that they will deliver the slightly brighter news in the future. So that's the end of our first segment of the News Daily, and we'll be back with more news from Southeast Asia.
ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Good morning and welcome back to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. So we are going to deliver more news from Southeast Asia, and we are traveling to Singapore. Well, Singapore has released the budget plan, and according to the Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister Tharman Shanmugaratnam says the government shapes the budget in the interest of Singapore's future and not to win elections, and hope that this is something that he comes up with the transparency and the informative budget plan. So there are around 10 major points that you can take away from this report. First one is social mobility, progressive system, tilt towards helping lower income, because in the last 5 years there has been a significant tilt towards helping the lower and also middle income groups, and the support for the middle income group, like I mentioned before, and also a stronger social compact. According to the Deputy Prime Minister, the key is not about how much they are redistributing, but then it's about how they are strengthening the values of the fair and inclusive society. The social impact for the future is one where the personal and the collective responsibility go hand in hand, instead of cradle to grave, a sort of welfareism. Singaporean's system is about empowering people and rewarding the responsibility. So there are a few new social compacts. There will be intervention in education, supports for the home ownership, skilled future for everyone, redistribution of temporary life inequalities, encouraging community support, providing assurance in old age. And the other point is CPA melts the best of different system, and the government budget is in the healthy position apparently. So this year, 2015, the deficit of $6.7 billion is almost entirely due to the funds set aside for the future investment. So it is just a deficit because the government has set aside funds earned in this term of government for the future. So that includes the infrastructure and Changi Airport and other endowment and the trust funds as well. And fairness and sustainability is very important. Singapore has to sustain these two terms, fairness and sustainability. And that this is only fair and inclusive society for the next generations, not only for the elections at the time. So the government has written rules into the constitutions to ensure that there is a fair balance between the current and the future generations. So it will definitely not cross the red line of failing into balance the budget in every 5-year term of the government. And also in addition to that, NIR, or we call the net investment returns framework limits the government to using 50% of the expected long-term investment returns for current spending, while making sure at least 50% are kept in the reserves. And the last 2 points are taken from the right to left, meaning that they should be willing to take truth from both left and right of the political spectrum. And also Singapore cannot leave things entirely to the market and also natural workings of society, but neither can social policy interventions create a fair and a cohesive society without a culture of personal responsibility. And the last point is a gradual restructuring. Singapore has taken the middle path to business restructuring. So having a gradual cutting foreign worker inflows and applying the levels back to the boosting productivity, it sort of avoids the shock treatment, and also it will help small and medium enterprises to make the transition. So those 10 points are all extracted from the debate roundup speech by Deputy Prime Minister, and it looks like those 10 points are pretty much straightforward, and now it's the matter of how Singapore executes this budget plan for the nations. And then moving on to the next news, which is all the way from Singapore to boost up, and also they have the hope for the Philippines tourism. So global hotel brands are helping Manila at a record number of the rooms this year, and lots of perspectives and expectations are coming from Manila itself, and this will help to boost the underperforming Philippine tourism sector, although other infrastructures is needed before it can really take off. And the Filipino is one of the Southeast Asia countries sort of well known for having poor infrastructure in the cities especially. So the first timers in the Philippines, the very well-known hotel Hilton, Worldwide, Conrad, and also other hotels will be contributing to the majority of the around 4,000 over rooms opening in Manila this year 2015. And the number is more than double the rooms added last year, and 4 times the average increase in the last 4 years. And Manila is one of the most active locations in the regions in the new hotel openings. So this is something that the other hotels want to invest in. And also room addition, not only the rooms addition, but they also plan to improve the quality of the hotels as well. And this will attract more tourists to come over to Manila despite of still having the poor infrastructure. Well, the country still has the problem, which is the poverty. So other than attracting all those tourists over to Manila, Philippines is still having a lot of poverty problems, and in fact the rate rises to 25.8 by the 2014 and before 2014. And in 2015 it was expected to rise even higher than that. So this is something that the government has to really take into consideration. And the poverty rate in Southeast Asia's second fastest growing economy was 24.6% year earlier, and the latest data from the Philippines statistics, it was pretty shown clearly that it was getting higher and higher. No matter the income per capita is increasing in the nation, still poverty is something to be considered in the nation, because when you just walk around the city and it's just a street, you will see lots of street kids are begging for money, and not even kids, even adults. They're just there, and that's been their lifestyle out there. And not only the image of the nation, but that it also shows the economic rate and as well as the poverty rate in the one nation. Well, there was a huge ups and downs after the typhoon Haiyan hit the nation, and that sort of it affected even more, brought a more stronger impact to the nation to balance the poverty, and it didn't seem to help much after the damages are made. So the government really needs to do something about this, the ongoing and the for long-term issues, which is poverty. And the other news to report is all the way coming back actually to Malaysia, which is about the 1MDB, that no protection if misconduct detected in a 1MDB, and this is coming from the Najib PM Prime Minister assures the UMNO leaders. So he has given the undertaking that no one will be protected, and also the UMNO Supreme Council member Dr. Sari Ismail Sabri, who was tasked with speaking to a few reporters after Najib had briefed some 160 UMNO divisions on the 1MDB at the closed-door meeting it was. And he assured that he would ensure that no one will be protected if a misappropriation in the government-backed fund was discovered. This means that there is nothing that it can be done or protected by the Prime Minister, and there is nothing that the government is trying to protect. And this is what the President has explained to all the divisions heads are satisfied with the explanation. So MDB was still a controversial issue, and then there is a new CEO that replaced the old the CEO before, who brought a lot of issues over. And still a lot of eyes are on this issue regarding the transparency and informative the plant, but according to the Najib, the 1MDB accounts had undergone a more detailed forensic audit and no elements of misconduct. It was pretty transparent and informative to the public already. However, the feedback from the other team or leaders are otherwise. And the commitment of this president is the same as that decided by the cabinet, and the president has explained that we will not protect anyone. So this is already announced to the public, and hope that they can carry out this plan and promises to the public. So this is all the news from News Daily for the second segment, but stay tuned, that there will be more news from Southeast Asia for the third segment.
ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Welcome back to Durian ASEAN. You're still with Grace to deliver all the news from Southeast Asia. So this is something great news for those SME players. Apparently Singapore and Malaysia, they want to develop the partnership. So small and medium enterprises players from Indonesia as well, Malaysia and Singapore gather in Batam, Raya Island, to develop the possible business partnership, and this is a very good opportunity for the players to get to know each other and also to improve and fix if there is any mistakes, or to develop the business opportunities among them. And this is such a business business gathering was very important to increase the economic activities among these three countries ahead of ASEAN Economic Community, which is slated to be implemented at the end of this year. And a lot of questions are, questions have been raised after the AEC, the term was released. However, towards the ASEAN Economic Community, not only these three countries, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Singapore, but the other countries such as Cambodia, Vietnam, Philippines, also looking forward to invest more on the small and the medium enterprise or SMEs. And this gathering is the embryo of the future cooperation among players from these three nations. And in fact, the term we call startups is very famous nowadays. And not only startups, but also these SMEs, the term, are widely used among younger generations. And it shows that this will boost up the economic growth in these three nations especially, and a lot of startups from online and even offline are coming up, and the competitions among this industry is becoming healthier and healthier. So it is actually very good news that three countries are gathered together to discuss and further to develop this business sectors. And in addition to that, National Chamber of Commerce and Industry of Malaysia, Secretary General Syed Hussein, said he believed that this event in Batam would help create more business opportunities. When it comes to business opportunities, there are still lower chances for those people who are not educated and who didn't have so much privileges like the others who goes for the studies abroad. However, having this three nations gathered together to discuss about it, hope that they can plan something for all these lower income people and also to provide more platforms to have more job opportunities in the future. And moreover, Bank in Indonesia, the head of Bank Indonesia, who's Gusti Rizal Eka Putra, expected that Indonesia could become a stronger player during this implementation of AEC. And this province apparently has a huge potential in the maritime and a fishery, yet this sector has not been developed due to the maximum. So more information from this quite a positive news in the regards of developing partnership among Indonesia, Singapore, and Malaysia will be delivered soon from Durian ASEAN. And moving on, well, yesterday it was the International Women's Day, and the theme of the International Women's Day this year was purple, and so many hashtags were going around and to celebrate and also to empower the woman's womanship, we call it, and especially in ASEAN. Quite a sad news, but then it's a reality. The woman empowerment is quite low on the priority list. Cities, societies, and even civil societies in Southeast Asia questions why ASEAN member countries are able to find a compromise when it comes to economic and political issues, but refuse to give up the solution to the issues when it comes to human rights. And yet ASEAN countries still deal with a lot of human rights, not only regards to women, but also even the certain groups or minority groups. It could be religion, or it could be just a racist problem, and that comes with a lot of human rights issues here. And when it comes to women empowerment, well, it is very sad, but then ASEAN countries are pretty slow on funding on this women empowerment. Even if they send a letter or they write to the government, it's likely that it will be ignored, and it could also be mainly also because of the religious or the other social matter. The priority is not on the woman yet in ASEAN countries. One of the example is Cambodia. Cambodia is one of the Southeast Asian countries where the voice of civil societies are paid little mind by the government. And within the region, there is a distinct variety in the influence played by non-governmental organizations, largely due to the government's openness to collaboration. Well, to the other nations such as the Indonesia and Philippines and Thailand, for example, civil societies enjoy greater access to government representatives and are even able to shape national policies relating to women. So it's also the matter of how the government is open to the matter of the women issues in one nation, and how they communicate with the public and the government itself. So it is still one of the considered to be a big issues in ASEAN, and it's ranked pretty low compared to the other countries. And definitely it's a work plan for all those nations in the ASEAN region. Well, that's it for our news daily today. Hope you guys have a good Monday today, and hopefully we can deliver the more better news from Southeast Asia. And don't forget to download TuneIn app. Still, we are in the progress of developing our website and our own Durian ASEAN app. However, please do visit us on our website, durianasean.com, and we do have our social channels such as Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. So do leave us the feedback.